time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. A busy Wednesday night. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, Brian Leonard with you from our studios in downtown Columbia. What a beautiful day around much of the state, though it was raining down in the coastal area. But here in Columbia, an absolutely gorgeous day. Put you in a great mood to talk football, talk some basketball. 800-956-7266 is our number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. The M&M Boys coming up in hour number 2. It's also an SC Wild night tonight. Captain Billy Downer has some very interesting things to share with us in our final half hour, so prepare yourself for that. So, with basketball now underway, we've got that to talk about along with the upcoming football games. I caught the second half of USC and Upstate. Will was at Wofford last night, and we watched Clemson and Citadel a little bit on the tube. So, my take on South Carolina and Upstate last night is sloppy basketball game. 2 games in a row if you count the public exhibition game for the Gamecocks, where they have not played good basketball. And if they don't pick it up here in another month or so, it's going to be a very long, tough season for them. You cannot turn the ball over with the regularity that they are doing. They went through a game where their point guard played 28 minutes and did not have an assist.
Six assists on 19 baskets is not a good average.
No. And he is coming off an ankle injury, and Frank Martin said that he only practiced a couple of times leading into the game over the last 20 days. So benefit of the doubt and give him some time, and I'm going to give the whole team some time to kind of get it all together. Silva did not shoot the ball well. He did score in double figures and had a double-double for the night, largely because he got fouled and went to the line and made his free throws. So that was good, and they played really good defense and kind of shut down anything that the Spartans were trying to do, though the Spartans played without their leading scorer, Deion Holmes, who's out until after Thanksgiving with a broken hand. So they missed him. But all in all, not a very pretty performance by South Carolina. It is a W, and they've got a chance here in these early games in November to win some games against inferior opponents and maybe get better as they go along. Now, I'll tell you what, if Keyshawn Bryant picks it up where he started last night and improves on that, they may have a very special talent in a guy that was not a hot recruit coming out of high school.
You know, it's weird, Corn. Upstate played them even on the floor when it comes to just shooting the basketball. The problem was they're a team that the only way that they could stick with South Carolina defensively is by fouling them. And that's why South Carolina got 37 trips to the line, made 27 of their free throws. That's the reason why they won the game. You go 0 for 18 from the field from 3-point. That's not good. Just 6 assists on 19 baskets. That's not good. 19 turnovers. That's not good at all. I mean, I don't know how many more teams on their schedule they can beat with a game of this nature. I know that Frank Martin is trying to teach his team some lessons. But, you know, this passive, let them figure it out during game time, I don't know how much longer that works. I really don't, because at this point in time, 65 points, I know you want to win games ugly, but not this ugly, Pro.
Well, my point is I can't look at a college team until there's, let's say, oh, boy. Well, everything
Shoot
here
the computer.
is acting. No, I got it. Acting weird. But the key point is, I can't tell what a college team is going to do to 10 games in,
right? Because
I don't know how they're going to play. And potentially, from what I saw, and it is difficult to see in a summer league play, but potentially their best guard was not even on the floor. T.J. Moss is going to be a tremendous talent, so he's going to have to be integrated into the system. But the one thing I do like about Keyshawn Bryant is I don't even think he checks the uniforms to see who's on the other side. He just goes out there and plays basketball, and he will go to the hoop by hook or by crook.
I'll amend your statement. I can tell that Duke is going to be a tough out for anybody. Did you see any of that game last night?
Well, I don't call them Duke. I call them Nike Blue versus Nike Bluer. AAU National Team 1 against AAU National Team 2. So AAU National Team 1, Nike Blue, was very, very good last night with their head coach, Mike Krzyzewski, handing AAU National Team Nike Team 2 Bluer the worst loss for that coach's career. And I can't say I feel bad about that. Anytime Calipari gets beat,
no one's crying for Calipari.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. But yeah, Nike Team 1, AAU Blue, they were very, very good. Zion Williamson's no longer playing against 5'7" white boys in the Skeeza League, and well, it's true. Go back and look at the highlights of his high school career.
I know.
Every dunk he's throwing down, this little 5'7", 140-pound white boy looking up at him.
Jalen Rose had the audacity to say this morning he still wouldn't start on the Fab Five. Zion wouldn't. And I'm like, really?
He's pretty stuck on the Fab Five thing. That's a heck of a group that AAU team has put together there for Nike Team 1 Blue. But, so now they're gonna be a tough out, like you said.
It's typical of Duke, though. Duke always starts off the season ready to play. Calipari's teams look like they've never seen a basketball in about the first 2 or 3 games.
Now, Adidas AAU Team Blue 1 also looked pretty good last night.
Mr. Kansas.
Kansas. Yeah. That's how I'm identifying these teams now that use their shoe companies to acquire talent.
The team that wears the tiger paw, wears Nike, and is orange in the upstate of South Carolina.
We know they're not cheating because, they couldn't get Zion.
But, hey, they scored 100 points for the first time. And I think what Tim Beret said, like 290 games, 20-point effort from Marquise Reed, 16-point effort from Mitchell. It was good to see Elijah Thomas on there. And really, this is probably the best result they could have expected for because you knew Citadel was going to fill it up. You knew they were going to get a lot of shots off. They shot 27 times, which I think is low from the three-point line, but at least from that perspective, I like that from Clemson. I think for them, they just kind of have to get through this early stretch, make sure that their team gets healthy, get Malik Williams back on the floor. They're obviously down a player now after the transfer of A.J. Oliver, so they're going to look for some more people like Hunter Tyson, John Newman to try and fill things up, but it'll be interesting to watch. Brad Brownell's going to get in the lab and try and churn things out and see which kind of combinations actually work.
Well, he shot 56% for the game, so he's got to be feeling good about that.
Very
and,
so.
Played good enough defense to get some separation against the Citadel, like you said. We know that Duger loves to shoot with the three, and they have good shooters on this team. He's surrounded himself with good shooters on this team, and they can all come down and hit threes. And they hung in there for a while before Clemson pulled away in the second half. So, again, they've got some games coming up in the early part of the schedule. It's going to give them a chance to get some experience and build some confidence before they finally start playing some decent competition.
Well, the 2 key players as we go into ACC play that I'm looking for that have to be contributors, and he's a tremendous talent in my mind, is Amir Sims, because I just like it. He's got the kind of body that he could stick with a Zion Williamson.
Right.
I mean, because he's got the weight and the strength. And Clyde Trapp, hopefully he's been in the weight room during the offseason.
27 minutes. He played a lot.
Yeah, best game of his career. And, look, they're going to get a chance to play Duke on January 5th in Cameron to open up ACC play. So you'll get your opportunity to see how they match up against Nike AAU National Blue Team 1.
I can't say enough about the atmosphere last night in the upstate in Spartanburg. It was fantastic. Out at Wofford College. And again, kudos to Roy Williams. You don't give him a lot of kudos on this show, but for agreeing to play the Terriers 2-for-1 and allowing them basically to host the Tar Heels in Spartanburg. Fantastic night. I hope it gives the Terriers and their attendance some momentum. And Richard Johnson up there, they put on a fantastic show. And they hung with them for 35 minutes. They really did. Didn't obviously come out with a victory, but the Terriers are going to be a tough team again, especially they got a nice point guard in Storm Daniel. We all know what Fletcher McGee can do. They've got also a very, very nice post player with Cameron Jackson basically going there, and it'll be interesting to see what they do down the stretch.
Sometimes you notice how great a coach is, or should I use the term good a coach is, when his team is sort of struggling. Fletcher McGee couldn't hit the side of a barn for most of the game. And yet Mike Young's team and the way he strategizes, they were right into that ball game until the last 5 minutes.
They hung in it a lot longer than they should have with him playing as poorly as he did.
Coastal Carolina, College of Charleston, Charleston Southern, Furman, and South Carolina State. Also winners last night around the state on the hardwood. And we'll be right back here on Sports Talk.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We welcome you back on Sports Talks, South Carolina Radio Network on a Wednesday. Tomorrow, Corn, we will be broadcasting live from the Great Group Therapy.
Oh, no.
No?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you that didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't happen?
No, Mr. Tannehill's not going to be
declined?
in town.
He declined?
No. He's just going to be out of town.
Oh,
my bad. I should not have. I'm sorry. I set you up for failure there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to pre-promote.
Good idea. We're going to do it.
False alarm. We are going to give the opportunity for Steve and Chuck Reedy to host us at their establishments as a thank you for having them on as the coach and the QB. It also reminds me to tell you that the M&M boys today, Corey Miller, Will Merritt, are confirmed but scheduled to appear.
Yes.
In our second hour.
When I see it.
Well, exactly. I did want to bring this up before we go to the calls, 800-956-7266. I'm seeing a lot of the national negative reaction to Will Muschamp's comments yesterday about not necessarily addressing voting with players. Basically, I was watching something. I was out to lunch and I saw an Outside the Lines file video of Muschamp, and they were talking about the question that Josh Kendall asked and the back and forth, saying, did you address voting? And he said, no, not really, and I'm focused on Florida. And I'm like, listen, you just obviously don't know what Will Muschamp's focus is. Will Muschamp is the same guy who said Thanksgiving's not a day, it's a meal. He's the same guy who said it's not Halloween, it's third down day. It's the same guy who said he didn't say anything special or do anything special for the solar eclipse that came in our town last year. Will Muschamp is a singularly tracked guy. He is a football guy and football only. And I'm just sitting here and I'm saying, why are people trying to come down on Will Muschamp for just being a football guy? His number one responsibility, I know you want to say it's molding the young men. His number one responsibility is what, Corn?
Winning.
Thank you.
I will say this. I think football coaches sometimes put on because they want people to think that they are totally immersed in their job and their sport 24 hours a day. I remember an interview my first boss, Bill Wagey, did back in the 1970s with Charlie Pell in October. He went up to Clemson to interview Charlie Pell for his radio show, and he asked Charlie Pell who he liked in the World Series, and Pell's response was, what's the World Series? This is the way football coaches want to be perceived, that they're just totally engrossed in building their team and their program.
But I think he's genuine with that.
But I bet you he went and voted yesterday.
See, here's what smart guys know. A question could be an entry question. Do you talk to your kids about voting? Yes. What are your political leanings? So see, you can start to say, well, he's getting those guys in the so you're damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Mm-hmm. So, maybe he just doesn't want to discuss politics within his program because we know how divisive the subject can become.
Which I think is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Win, damn it. That's my thing.
Win, and everybody is happy. And we'll talk about South Carolina and Florida. I was watching some Florida video today, and, Florida can still play defense. I know Missouri moved the ball well on them, had a long stretch of offense against them, but they can still play defense. They still have athletes. The running backs are going to be a problem for South Carolina. They have really got to clamp down and tackle well. Yards after contact are something that those running backs at Florida thrive on. And the quarterback situation, South Carolina does not need Florida to all of a sudden get healthy at quarterback.
And with Boston College against Clemson, Corn, I know people are talking a lot about, whether A.J. Dillon will play or not. This will be the best defensive test that Trevor Lawrence goes up against until the college football playoff semifinal. I guarantee you that. So it's going to be very, very hard for him to really get anything going. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying this will be the biggest test for him defensively.
All right, 800-956-7266. Calls are rolling in on a Wednesday night here in the Palmetto State. James and Sumter, good evening and welcome into Sports Talk.
Hey guys, love the show. Let me start off by saying it's not being political, but I think all head coaches in college should encourage these young men to participate in their civic duty of voting. There's been a lot of people in this country, black, white, green, purple, brown, whatever, that have died for them to have the right to vote, and everybody should exercise that right.
James,
but hey, let me ask you guys. Yes, sir.
I'm asking you, Will Muschamp. There's nothing to suggest that he doesn't do that. He just does not want to address that in a public forum. There were players yesterday who were asked about voting, Stephen Montag being one of them, who said, yeah, it was something that was talked about amongst the locker room, but Will Muschamp is not making that a part of his public platform. That's the only thing that yesterday was an example of. He's not going to grandstand.
Well, that's great. And if he wants to keep it private, I have no problem with Coach Muschamp doing that. But let me ask you guys a question about college football. Let me spend this for a minute. Not to knock anything with Clemson. They are great. They proved that to me at Florida State. They're great. Alabama's great. But are you guys – I really don't want to see Alabama-Clemson Part 4. It's like Friday the 13th Part 4, okay? It's kind of getting like that. And let me just say this. Michigan and Notre Dame are sacrificial lambs for either one. And it's going to come – if Clemson was to play Michigan in the finals and Notre Dame was to play Alabama, both would get their brains beat out, and it's going to be Clemson, Alabama again. I just wanted to ask you guys, first of all, who do you think will win a matchup, and do you think it's good for college football? And I'm just going to hang up and listen.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I know people generally like powerhouse teams, and these are two powerhouse teams. You go back over the history of college football, we've always had one or two, if not more, powerhouse teams in a given era. Mm-hmm. I mean, go back to Oklahoma. I'm not going to go way back like in your Army days, your Notre Dame days. But go back to Oklahoma and then Texas and then Miami's era and Florida State's era and Alabama's era that seems to stretch for decades. And
Southern California.
Southern California had an era. Miami. Michigan. Yeah. So, I mean, right now, this is Alabama's era again, and Clemson is crashing the party. If the Tigers win the national championship, as Dabo Swinney vowed they would do. Remember, he said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, when we win one, we will win multiple. So he believes that they'll be raising the trophy again, if not this year, again sometime soon. And who would disbelieve them when you look at the talent that they have now and the talent that's lining up to come in? And it is just the way it is now, the way the system is set up, that you're going to have a lot of repeat performers here the rest of this decade. I mean, look at next year. Tango Viola is back at Alabama. Lawrence is back at Clemson. Those running backs are back at Alabama. Those running backs are back at Clemson. The receivers are back. Alabama's got receiver.
He graduated those defensive linemen, but
they'll replace them.
Yeah,
they'll replace. Here's some of the guys backing up. Those guys would be frontline defensive linemen at many other Power 5 programs.
I will say this about people worried about an Alabama or Clemson fatigue: the fact that there are two teams that have been constants in this college football playoff era, which has been very limited as far as limited sample size. The fact that we have two constants in Alabama and Clemson, I think helps the fact that weathers off the fatigue, because of the fact that people love a protagonist and antagonist relationship. Look at what happened with the NBA over the last couple of years between the Warriors and the Cavaliers, LeBron versus the Warriors. This was obviously something that was a big boon for the NBA, regardless of what you think about the way TV ratings are. This is the way college football is right now.
Do people like parity?
No. Parity.
Do they like a bunch of average teams? Or do they like a couple of aircraft carriers to shoot out?
Parity is a farce.
People like parity when it's the NFL.
But people like parity when it's their team getting the possibility of the benefit.
That's my point. When the NFL season starts, it's almost like you can think that half the teams have a chance.
You know who wants parity? Ohio State fans and Michigan fans.
But here's the interesting thing about it. If you really look at the game of football, part of Clemson's success is the fact that their coaching staff has been intact.
Of course.
And they win and they have talent. Alabama's coaching staff is a revolving door as far as their coordinators are concerned. And then you look up, wait a minute, Nick Saban is still winning. What? They do it two different ways and they both work, and they're just two behemoths right now.
An Alabama-Clemson final in Santa Clara is what's best for college football. I defy anybody to tell me different.
I think they should move it to Atlanta if those two play, because why
if you're talking about eyeballs, you're going to have probably a bigger audience if a Michigan is in there, because that's going to capture the entire Midwest, not to mention the alumni of Michigan all over the country.
Michigan's going to get their doors blown off, and it's going to be boring as hell.
Well, Clemson football has been boring all year, to be honest with you.
800-956-7266. We'll get to some more of your phone calls after we hear from the basketball coaches. I do want to pose one Twitter question. This is from Britton, who tweets us at SportsTalkSC, which we invite you to do as well. Also follow us and watch our Periscope online. We get a full video view of the show and the audio that corresponds with it. He says, which fan bases will be cheering for BC Saturday night? Anybody not named Alabama, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you mean like locally, certainly Gamecock fans will be cheering
I think
for
he's
Boston
talking about
College, but in terms of the other teams in the top 4, 5, 6, oh yeah. But you look at the rankings,
well,
and
this also poses the question: do you think Clemson can still get in with a loss? I don't think they can.
Again, it depends on what happens around them. You figure, just looking at what's ahead, Notre Dame is probably going to finish undefeated. Michigan still has to play. Michigan still has to play Ohio State. Georgia's got to play Auburn and Georgia Tech. Oklahoma has to play Oklahoma State here late. So if Clemson, the interesting thing is the committee, not that LSU is going to be a factor. They really didn't punish LSU strongly for their one-sided loss to Alabama, only dropped them at number 7 with 2 losses, but I can't see them being a factor. Anybody should be mad. It's Washington State and West Virginia by having LSU still ahead of them in the ranking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a misguided decision when it comes to that.
It's a knock on those two conferences is what
UCF,
it is.
man. Hey, UCF, if you're not getting the message now, you need to get the message through your thick head.
Schedule somebody.
You're not going to get into the top 4 with your schedule and with the league you're in. I don't care how many games in a row you win.
You know what the problem with UCF is? They're showing how great they are on offense, that everybody they call up, nope, not playing.
Don't want to play.
They also see Temple gain like 571 yards on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of fans with that.
All right, basketball. We had a chance to take in the second half of South Carolina's game last night and sit in for the the Frank Martin post-game press conference after the win over Upstate. Of course, it was a kind of a special evening for him because his son, Brandon, a freshman at Upstate, who looks like a good basketball player, he got in and got some minutes and scored, I think, 6 points. But here's Martin talking about his team and its performance in the season opening win last night.
Obviously, we defended pretty well today, and we rebounded the ball fairly well. Got really sloppy with our rebounding when we gained separation in the game. But it's, offensively, we didn't play bad. We just didn't make shots. The only thing we didn't do well was the turnovers. We had some scouting report said 5-man ball screen, it's a hard hedge. And our point guards turned it over the first 3 times they hedged the ball screen. And, those are things that with first-year guys, we're going to have to battle. We got to get better play from Trey Campbell. Here's what happens. He's practiced twice in the last 15 days, 2 times. So he was playing real well before he turned his ankle. It's not the injury that's holding him back. It's the fact that he hasn't gotten reps in the way we play. So now the game starts, and what do? You go back to the habits that you've been taught to play in. And he broke away from what we asked to do. So he needs reps in practice, and he'll do them. I wasn't real happy with him today, not for anything other than he broke away from our disciplines and the things we try to teach. And then AJ's going to be real good. Him and Keyshawn, I told you guys, they're fun to watch. AJ wasn't as he needed to be today. He was a little too I don't want to say lackadaisical because that's not a fair word, just not as aggressive as he needs to be. And but it's a kid that should be in high school right now. And so we're going to have moments like those.
65-52, South Carolina wins. Again, 21 for Keyshawn Bryant, 13 for Chris Silva. The Gamecocks Friday night play Stony Brook at Colonial Life Arena. Switching gears to Clemson, who defeated the Citadel 100-80. 20 points for Marquise Reed. One of 6 in double figures for Clemson. 16 points apiece for Amir Sims and Shelton Mitchell. Clemson shooting 56% from the field. Here's head coach Brad Brownell on his team's performance against the Bulldogs last night.
With our win tonight, Citadel's a hard team to play. Unique style, 40 minutes of zone, felt like 40 minutes of press, and it's, there's 5 different defenses, in the half court and 3 different presses. And you just don't, at the beginning of the year, you haven't practiced for all of it all the time. And I thought our guys did a really good job of handling the ball, especially against the press. I didn't think we had really bad possessions at all, and I thought we got more out of that than they probably would like. I thought they're hard to guard. Initially, they got off to a good start and got a little rhythm. Then I thought we did a little bit better, and then we had some silly plays in the second half defensively where we fouled them and let them kind of hang around. The way the game goes, they're always going to be there because of the 3-point shot, and you just got to be smart. I thought our guards were good again. Great to see Clyde come off the bench and play well. Very valuable. You know, David Scarr was in foul trouble, which was hard for us. Amir had some fouls, which made it a little hard for us at times. But again, he's been very efficient. And then I'm very proud of Eli. He just hasn't. I didn't know if he'd be able to go today. He practiced about 20 minutes yesterday, and he came to me and shoot around and said, "I want to try." And the doctor said that the bone bruise, the turned ankle is pretty much fine, but the bone bruise is extremely painful, and it's really just up to his tolerance level. And so to get 24 minutes out of him, that was about the most I was going to use him, and really probably about 6 or 8 more than I thought I would. And I don't know. It would have been hard to win without him just because we don't have much depth. So, again, great win. And a lot of credit to Citadel for the way they played.
All right, Brad Brownell, following the Tigers' win last night over the Citadel. Note from USC football, Will Muschamp on the SEC conference call this morning said that Rico Dowdle and Aaron Sterling returned to practice, but defensive end Bryson Allen Williams remains out, may not be able to go on Saturday. He's 5th on the team in tackles and a big leader on that defensive side, so they certainly would miss him. This was an injury that we weren't aware of until yesterday's interviews with the players when Fenton let it be known that Allen Williams, somebody had asked him a question about Jemias Williams, and he thought you were asking about Bryson Allen Williams. He kind of let the cat – we'd have found out anyway when Muschamp talked, I'm sure. But looks like the Gamecocks may be without one of their another key defensive player.
That's a bigger loss than Wanham was, I would argue, and a bigger loss than the 2 safeties that they lost for the season with Jemias and Javon Charleston going down last week.
Look at this injury list for the Gamecocks. Jemias Williams, shoulder. Javon Charleston, shoulder. Ortre Smith, knee. Eldridge Thompson, shoulder. Javon Gwynn, foot. Tyreek Johnson, knee. Caleb Kinlaw, knee, all out for the season. JT Ebay, knee. Nick Harvey, concussion. Remain out. And of course, everybody's got injuries this time of the year. You can't hide from them, and you can't make excuses.
Which is the reason why defensive people want 3 and outs, because the more defensive players, especially defensive players, stay on the field, those injuries come up because they're worn out.
Let's go to Hank in Columbia quickly before we hit our next break on Sports Talk. Hey, Hank.
Hey, Colin. How's it going?
Good.
Hey, I think that whoever the caller was calling about the Clemson and the Alabama fatigue, I think it would be good to see them match up in the championship game because I think they're the 2 best teams this year. But I think going forward, Clemson beats up their schedule next year playing Georgia, which is a team that kind of out recruits them. So Clemson could win, but they'll have. I think Georgia will pop in there as another team that'll be in the mix in the future.
Clemson, Georgia is not for another couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's not until 2024. That's not until 2024.
Oh, okay. I thought they played next year.
No.
But Corn.
Yeah.
Corn.
Yeah.
I wanted Zion to come to Carolina as bad as anybody else, but for all the people that said the guy was just a dunker, like you said, over 5'7" white guy. Last night, the one guy that was ranked ahead of him that scored 33, he scored 28.
Yeah.
Zion was the guy that they interviewed last night because what he did from an assist standpoint, and he ran point when the guy got in foul trouble, he ran point for them.
All right, hang on a second, Hank. We'll let you finish up, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Recruiting coming up. Also a conversation with Clemson defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, as well as your phone calls, 800-956-7266. We were talking with Hank from Columbia.
And in recruiting, by the way, got a commitment for USC baseball from a huge left-hander. We'll tell you about that coming up. But quickly back to Hank so he can continue to talk about Zion Williamson and Nike's AAU National Team 1 Blue.
Yeah, that's true. You know, bought or not, but I was just very intrigued by the fact that there was so much, you know, about the fact that a lot of people just called him a dunker and what he was doing to people. And then watching him last night, you know, Kentucky was actually favored. I actually thought this was going to be an awakening for them, but he not only stood out on the court, he stood out amongst the Dukies.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. I heard you talking about it at the beginning.
He's got a complete game. He's got a complete game. There's no question about it. And, you know, got the body and the skills. But keep in mind, I was thinking about this. I mean, you know, looking at South Carolina play last night, I didn't see Clemson very much because I was at South Carolina game. But watching South Carolina, then watching Nike AAU Blue National Team 1 located in Durham. Light years away, but it reminds me the last time those two teams played, South Carolina won that game against Coach K.
That's true.
A couple of years ago.
Could be.
This team that the Nike's put together for Duke has really looked special.
Clemson Tigers getting ready for a trip to Boston.
Am I being too hard on
the football side?
On Puke?
No, but I think you can be confusing some of our listeners. Who is this Nike team you're talking about?
I think it's what
our listeners are way too smart to be confused over something that silly.
Tigers will have a chance to win their division. They will don the championship-famed orange breeches for the first time this season as they head to Chestnut Hill. Someone who is making a homecoming nearby Springfield, Mass. is where he is from. Clemson defensive tackle Christian Wilkins is excited to make his second trip inside at famed stadium in Chestnut Hill.
I'm still working on that. I'm still trying to figure out, you know, who all coming and, you know, how I'm going to get all the tickets and everything like that. Because obviously a lot of people want to come. It's the last opportunity for a lot of people to come see me play. And like you said, it's a homecoming game for me, which I'm really excited about. You know, just, you know, playing at Boston College, which was like my dream school when I was a kid coming up and everything. So I'm just excited for the opportunity this week.
Having done it before, are the nerves kind of gone, or do they still come back a little bit going up there?
Oh no, never really nervous. I mean, you know, just more excitement, just more angst than anything. Not really nervous or anything. Just always ready to play. Always looking forward to it. Always looking just forward to the opportunity to play, especially in front of, you know, family, friends, and loved ones.
Christian, how big of a deal is it having not played as many snaps and being pressure this time of year? I mean, is it a real? How do you feel that?
No, it's definitely big. You know, well, one for me, you know, my body, I definitely feel it. Like, I don't feel as fatigued at this point throughout the season, which will be huge for, you know, games later in the season where we'll have to go the distance, or, you know, my body will be able to hold up for the most part. And also just it's huge for the experience for the younger guys. That's always a big thing, just the development of our team, development of the young guys. It's critical that they get those snaps and that playing time. So it's always fun to see. And just good to see the guys develop and everything like that. So it's been good, definitely the less amount of snaps I've been getting.
How difficult is it to pull back in that way? Because I'm sure you get very antsy and you want to be on the field, but how difficult is it to just kind of pull back and know that this is for a greater goal?
It's not really difficult at all for me. You know, it's kind of an incentive. Do my job, get out early, and, you know, and just let the young guys play and get that experience. So it's always big. So, you know, it's definitely just a little bit more motivation. And, you know, I'm always happy for young guys to get their opportunity. And it makes me feel better, you know, as a leader and just as an older guy that, you know, we did our part, you know, and now it's chance for the young guys to get their opportunity.
Y'all held AJ Dillon 57 yards on 18 carries last year. How were you able to do such a good job containing it?
Well, just everyone's just going to have to do their job, you know, whatever that is, whether, you know, your job is to take on the double teams, you know, shoot the gaps, just whatever, you know, like everyone's just got to play team defense and sound defense. Just be disciplined, be clean, be sharp, whatever our job is, you know, just get it done. And we have to be able to tackle because he's a big bag. You know, they got two really good backs. and they just do a lot of different things that could be a challenge for us. So we just got to lock in on it each play, and that starts just with our preparation throughout the week. So
is he the hardest back you've had to tackle?
No, he's definitely a load. He's one of the hardest for sure. I got a lot of respect for him as a player. Just going up against him and seeing what he does, week in and week out, it's impressive for sure.
Something, Corn, that our friend Grover, who tweets us at SportsTalkSC, we talk about the injuries for South Carolina. He says everybody gets injuries this time of year except teams that can put their second team in at halftime 10 games a year plus the ACC championship game.
Yeah, there's some truth to that.
And Clemson only has two guys who are really banged up, Mark Fields and Sean Pollard, and Pollard was only held out as a precaution. And
Fields is back.
And Fields probably would be better if he didn't play. I'm sorry. That's
mean.
That's mean.
All right. In just a moment, we'll give you some
I'm sorry.
recruiting.
That's just what it is.
Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston. Been a while. Glenn, how are you?
Guys. How you doing?
Good, Glenn.
I'm glad to see y'all still together and going on strong. And
yeah. Where else would we be, Glenn?
Was there any rumor to the contrary?
Oh, hang on a second here. Hang on. I got to read something here, though. This is just coming in out of the University of Florida.
Oh, what's going on?
Quarterback suffers injury in practice. And, of course, this is one of those behind the paywall stories on one of those silly little websites. Apparently, a Florida quarterback was injured in practice today. I can't tell you who it is yet because it hasn't. Only place I've seen it is on a
paywall
website. So we'll keep looking for something to pop up here in a minute. But go ahead, Glenn.
I'm kind of scared, Corn, about the game tomorrow. I think Scarnecchia ought to play the rest of the season.
Why?
Well,
Glenn, why do you say things like that and just really sound like you're just coming in from Mars?
I'm not really, because I hate to see the best quarterback we got injured at the late end of the season. I know he's going to take a chance and maybe go. Florida's due for a win. Come on now. I mean, it would be us, but I keep seeing them losing, giving up gas. Because all of a sudden, bam, it would be us, And then here we are at the end of the season, and it would be something if they would take out Bentley. God say no, but
I tell you what, South Carolina is not going to go into that game thinking like Florida is due and they can't win. South Carolina just wants to add to Florida's slide here. They've lost 2 in a row, and South Carolina has got a lot to play for, a chance to go 5-3 in the league, finish 3rd in the division behind Georgia and Kentucky, which is, it's not where they want to be. It's not where they should have been.
It's progress.
It is what it is. Yeah, Muschamp will look at that as progress. I tell you what, though,
winning record in the SEC is progress.
Nobody in a South Carolina uniform or who wears garnet and black is going to feel like he's making progress if he's not competitive against Clemson. Competitive. A chance to win. If they go up there and get their doors blown off again,
which they will,
that's not going to be seen as progress.
Which they will.
Just saying. Quick recruiting update here on Sports Talk. USC defensive coordinator and secondary coach Travaris Robinson remains in touch with cornerback Shiloh Sanders, Deion's son out of Texas. Been in touch with Sanders' defensive coordinator, who's also a close friend of Robinson's, according to Sanders. And he likes him. He says of the Gamecocks, thinks the program has a lot of potential to be one of the top. Just watching them play and watching them get better, he said. Tennessee, the newest offer. He's been unofficially to Florida State, and he plans to visit Michigan State in December. Athlete Xavier Legette of Mullins was offered by Tennessee, and he plans to visit there this weekend. He has a gray shirt offer from USC and has visited there and will return next weekend for the UTC game. And in baseball, just a little while ago, USC picked up a verbal commitment from left-hander Luke Little. He is 6'8", 220 pounds. He's out of San Jacinto Junior College in Texas, a native of Matthews, North Carolina. How imposing is he going to look on the mound at 6'8", 220?
Can they get him to start this year? Because they need pitching.
Well, with their injuries, they could use some arms.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, top of the hour break. We shall return.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show. 800-956-7266.
Back we are, Sports Talk on a Wednesday night. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, Brian Leonard. Let's see. It's not Halloween. It's not Thanksgiving.
Not a bye week.
It's not Hanukkah. Not a bye week. Not Christmas. Not New Year's. It's not Kwanzaa. So Will Merritt is available to join us tonight here on Sports Talk, along with the pastor of Payne, Corey Miller, the M&M boys together once again. Will, how are you?
Yeah, it might not be Halloween, but it's going to be scary for y'all.
Oh, yeah, you've been saving this up for a couple of weeks. Pastor of Payne, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, gentlemen. Hope you're doing well.
How was your trip to the Bayou?
Oh, it was amazing. That place was so electric. I mean, it's definitely the best college atmosphere that I've been a part of. I mean, it was loud. I mean, they had all these former players back, even active players in the NFL, to guys like my former teammate Leonard Marshall from the Giants. He was back in time. I mean, it was they pulled out all the stops, man. I mean, it was a tough place to go play, but Alabama showed how good they really are playing against a great football team. And I would say the most hostile environment in college football.
Did you bring me back some Gator Bites?
No, I didn't, man. I had some great gumbo or jambalaya without the rice. You know, trying to teach them how to do the ketogenic jambalaya. You know, some.
He is singing my song.
Yes, sir. But the food was amazing. Had a great time, and you know, just of course, going to farewell school with my son. It's been just amazing. His last season, he's playing great. Of course, he picked up another defensive player of the game, which we're happy to see, along with student of the week. So. God has been so good and blessing us, man. So I'm just very thankful.
I don't know if jambalaya without the rice is really jambalaya anymore, though, Corn.
Hey, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I mean, all jokes aside and all the banter back aside, it warms my heart to be able to see that Corey goes down there and gets to see his son play like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Christian is playing great football, and it's just good that he's healthy and getting a chance to contribute. All right, let's talk about our locals before we talk about the national scene. And Will, Clemson averaging 60 points a game over the last 4, just annihilating everybody in its way. Now they go to Boston College, a chance to win the division. This BC team on paper looks like they can put up a bit of a fight. How do you think the Tigers are going to handle this one on the road in a situation where they can win the division?
He's a different type of opponent. You know, I mean, they play a different brand of football, and you know, they like to line up in the box and just get you right in the mouth, which is a different brand and different style of football. But I think Clemson's worthy to the task. I mean, they can handle that. Every time everybody said, "Oh, we can do this or we can do that" against Clemson, they just find a different way to win. BC's not going to be no different. They're going to win. You know, they're going to be just fine against them. They'll probably win by 3 or 4 touchdowns and move on.
Mm-hmm. You know, you're Boston College. You're in the spotlight for the first time like this, I guess, since the Matt Ryan days. Game day is going to be there.
This is not a Matt Ryan Boston College team.
Yeah, but what I'm going to say is you know, they're going to be so hyped. You know, they may come out so overjuiced. Yeah, I mean, they may make a lot of mistakes early, and Clemson might have a chance to build an early lead.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's hyped when they play us right now. I mean, we're everybody's target right now.
Well, you wouldn't be Alabama's target. You'd be hyped to play Alabama. Alabama wouldn't be excited about playing you. You'd have to be hyped to play them.
But maybe that might be the only team. Maybe. But this is also, I mean, I was on the sidelines against Louisville. I went down there. I took a buddy of mine to the game. This is not a team that gets excited about playing anybody other than just going out and just beating people. That's all they want to do. They just want to beat people. They're not excited about playing at Louisville. They're not excited about playing. They just want to beat people. And I understand that, you know, Corey's going to say, well, of course it's easy to, you know, to go out and beat people. But the thing is, the only opponent they have is themselves. how good can they play?
Corey, do you?
So I don't think that BC is going to be any different.
Corey, do you believe that BC has anything for Clemson, or is it just another ACC cupcake for them?
You said it. I mean, it's a cupcake. I mean, it's a cupcake. They won't play anybody until they get to the college football playoffs, and that has always been my concern for Clemson. Like I said last year.
Well, now you're not giving your Gamecocks any credit, Corey. Come on, that's got to.
But it's the same thing with like Ole Miss. Like playing Ole Miss, really? That's not. Yeah, that shouldn't be a big deal.
But Alabama's been playing this way against everybody. But my point is, Alabama's again. As I said last week, well, you missed it. They're not even in the same stratosphere. But my point is, for Clemson, it's not going to be a tough game. I mean, the only way they can lose this game, they go and turn the ball over. Give Boston College a chance. And did you say game day was going there?
Mm-hmm, yes. Yeah.
Boy, it must be a bad week of football.
Corey,
I mean,
well, look, it's near Bristol. It's very cheap, a very cheap trip for them. Get to Boston and from Bristol to Boston's about an hour or
something
so.
like that.
Yeah, very easy ride.
You could have done Ohio State, Michigan State, but
there is so much I want to say right now. That
go ahead.
Give me enough time.
No, go ahead. We'll give you a minute. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I love how the fact that you want to say, oh, it's just another ACC opponent. Well, I mean, who is Ole Miss? This is a 500 opponent that South Carolina is raving about winning, coming from behind, and winning in the fourth quarter. This is the worst football team in the country, and yet everybody is so excited that Jake Bentley finally showed up to play in the fourth quarter. And yet everybody wants to say, like Corey wants to say, oh, well, it's another cheap opponent. Well, are you kidding me? This is a terrible football team that y'all are now excited about beating.
Corey? I don't think I said anything about the Ole Miss. I said nothing about the Ole Miss game. Nothing about Ole Miss came out of my mouth. That was you. I didn't say anything about it. Matter of fact, I haven't even said anything.
Well, go ahead and say something about the Gamecocks winning down there, Corey. That's a good SEC road win.
It's a great win. It's a great win for South Carolina. Kudos.
A great win.
The ball game.
Well, let him talk. Let him talk.
Any win is great. And Ole Miss will probably be second or third in the raggedy ACC.
Oh, my dear God.
Offense in the country. And South
you have lost your mind.
Shootout. We know that defense is pretty bad. But the Ole Miss offense is extremely good. And anytime you go on the road in the best conference in the country, the SEC, it's not like going to Dutch Fork, which will happen when you go in an ACC environment. Some don't have to worry about that. You go.
Hey, man, Dutch Fork is pretty good now.
Swallowing my tongue, by the way.
The conference different. I mean, it's like, you know what? Boston College. I mean, let me tell you something. It's a joke that game day is going to Clemson. They are trying so hard to make this narrative with Clemson and Alabama, and so they're trying to get. So it's all a plot.
So you're of the opinion, Corey.
It's an $80 million joke. That's what because that's what it costs for them to go there. $80 million joke.
All right. I need to mention this. We haven't mentioned this. We got the news out of Florida that Kyle Trask, according to reports out of Gainesville, was injured in practice today. The guy who might be the quarterback Saturday now won't be. Non-contact injury to a lower body extremity. In today's practice, he was carted off the field.
So, Corey, you're saying that they're ranking all these ACC teams just to give Clemson some kudos and credit for beating somebody?
It's full of crap. You want to tell me Boston College and Syracuse are top 15 teams? Come on, guys, you watch enough
BC
football.
17 to be fair on the latest round.
I kind of agree with Corey on that. I have a hard time. I have a hard time accepting. I have a hard time accepting the number of ACC teams ranked in the top 25. I got to give it to you on that, Corey.
Yeah, it's all a setup because they want Clemson to
be. Well, that's because Phil, you drink the same Kool-Aid that Corey does. Until it comes to the end of November and we play each other, and then we beat you by 100.
They're all on the Dabo meditation program.
That's fine. When we play y'all every year and beat you by 100, then you don't talk to me anymore.
Is it going to be 50 again this year, Will?
I don't ever get a Christmas card from y'all.
I send you happy holidays. I do happy holidays because I don't know what people are celebrating. I just say happy holidays.
You also have a middle finger stuck up, baby.
All right, hang on.
That's too much.
Hang on. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Peruse the Clemson, South Carolina history. The most lopsided victory was 51-0 Clemson in 1900. You had the 56-7 victory a couple of years ago. You got one by 46 by Clemson, one by 45 by Clemson. It's funny. Anytime there's a blowout, usually it's on the orange side, Corn.
Yeah, because they're usually better. Now, for Will and for Corey, I know you guys are very strong religious individuals, but I saw something here in the notes on Boston College side that might not bode well for Clemson, and that is that Boston College all-time record, they are sitting on 666. Corey.
Well, that may not bode well for Boston College. That's normally not good.
You don't think it has counter effects?
That's scary.
You've been watching The
Exorcist
or something?
I don't know. I'm not talking.
Listen, the only reason I love these two men is because they love Jesus. All right, so I don't want to play that game.
They're at 666.
I'm not bothering that one.
All-time record wins, 666 against 489 defeats and 37 ties.
We have a tweet from
Brian. I'm not playing that game.
We have a tweet from Brian who says, "You and Will Merritt, to me, the two Wills, have to be the dumbest people on the radio." So, congratulations, Will. We've accomplished something. Apparently, you and I.
That's fantastic. I've been called worse.
Hey, I've always said if you're gonna be the best at something, why not be the best at sucking?
You may as well be the dumbest.
Yeah.
Hey, Will Merritt and Corey Miller, pastor of Payne, with us here, the M&M boys, for a few more minutes on Sports Talk as we talk about the Gamecocks.
I'm here to entertain, not to take people to hell. I promise you that.
All right, so Corey, I know you had your attention on the Crimson Tide primarily this weekend, but the Gamecocks did go to Ole Miss and put up some big numbers offensively against a bad defensive team. And the Gamecocks, who we like to think is a better defensive team, they got drilled by the Ole Miss offense, and they suffered some significant injuries. Now, Florida is a floundering team right now with their quarterback situation, still a pretty stout defense and a good running game. So all that being said, considering the Gamecock injuries, especially on the back end of the defense, how do you see them faring down at the Swamp this weekend?
Well, I think Florida's best deal on offense is running the football. They got great backs. Offensive line, very physical. That's what they do well. The passing game, not really there. Of course, now it looks like Felipe Frank's going to be the starter. He's been struggling. Dan Mullen is going to make a change at that position. So I think that benefits South Carolina. Again, in the SEC on the road, the Swamp is always a difficult place to play. We know they have a very, very aggressive defense going to bring pressure. Jake Benton's going to really have to be smart with the football, get it out of his hands quick, can't have all the negative plays, and I think they need to continue to run the football. Very impressed with Mon Denson last week. I know Tyson has a broken hand, I think. So Rico Dowdle got hurt. So they got some issues as far as injuries are concerned. But I do like one thing about this football team at South Carolina, their toughness. They fight and they don't quit. And this is the type of game, because Florida is not so explosive offensively, I think that they can run the football, make some plays in the passing game. I think they'll have a chance to win it. I really do. And I think Florida right now is spiraling down as we look at it. And, of course, the fans not too happy with what's going on down there. So South Carolina got to take advantage of that. So I like South Carolina in this game. Before quarterback situation, I had South Carolina maybe losing this football game. But right now, I think they're going to win it.
Now, you can get a ticket for that game on StubHub for $23. So they are plentiful.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
You got to worry about the student section. So I think South Carolina, again, it's protecting the football. You can't turn it over. And then they can run the football and make some plays in the passing game with Edwards and Debo. Those guys looked really good last week. Finally coming to life what we expected to see at the beginning of the year. Now they're starting to do the things that we thought that they could do. If this continues, South Carolina can finish strong. I'm telling you, they got the offensive line plays good. So I like them in this football game.
And even if South Carolina does beat Florida, Will Merritt won't give South Carolina any credit for it.
No, he's not going to do that. But that's fine. Maybe South Carolina can knock
Will?
out of college football.
You there?
He's gone.
Yeah, it's not the Swamp anymore. It's the Slough. Okay, we know that. And so, I mean, come on now. I mean, if you ever want to capitalize on what was a sinking ship, this is a great opportunity for South Carolina to do it. If they go in there and beat a really bad Florida team, do it. That's going to be great. It's going to look really good on the resume going into Thanksgiving.
Will, would you not consider progress for South Carolina having a winning record in the Southeastern Conference?
For the second straight year.
I hate for these words to come out of my mouth, but yes, South Carolina is progressing. They are moving in the right direction. And I've told you guys from the beginning, I think Will Muschamp is an incredible head football coach. I think he's going to be a great coach at South Carolina. But you know what? I mean, it's not the same Florida team, guys. It's not.
Do you have – I mean, I said earlier in the show, and Corey, you can talk about this too. I think Muschamp said this week, finishing 5-3 in the league for the second straight year, only the fourth time in school history they would have had back-to-back winning SEC seasons, would show progress, show a lot of progress in the program, the culture, and what they're building, and I don't disagree with that. However, I think in the minds of Gamecock fans, they have to show progress against Clemson here in November.
Well, that's what's not happening, guys.
That's what I'm going to ask you.
I mean, you're going to get
this
to the end of November.
Now, come on, hang on. Will.
And you're going to get destroyed.
This is an older South Carolina team now. Jake Bentley is not going to be a wet behind the ears freshman like he was
beat up
2 years
Carolina
ago.
Team
well, we'll see how healthy they are, but this is going to be an older team, ready to play, focused, determined, and confident, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the same team. I mean, yeah, they're going to play Clemson tight. They're going to be probably the
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You think you're going to be within 3 touchdowns of us?
South Carolina was in the ACC Coastal right now. You'll be playing them in Bank of America Stadium.
Do you believe in your heart of hearts you can hang within 3 touchdowns of us?
I'd love to see South Carolina versus Virginia.
Yes. I would take South Carolina.
You do. You think you can? You think you can be within 25 points of us?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's not Florida.
Oh my gosh, you've lost your mind. You've lost your mind.
Virginia. This is not Duke. I mean, it's tough. ACC
it's still South Carolina. We beat you by 250 points in the last couple of years.
That's the last couple of years. That's the past.
Oh my gosh. All right, on the air right now, I'll put $1,000 on the line that you will not beat us by 15 points.
Wait. Say that again.
I said right now on the air. I'll put $1,000 on the line that there's no chance that South Carolina loses by less than 15 points. Corey, you in?
Whoa.
You're giving them South Carolina.
I don't think this is legal.
25 points.
That sounds like something for NFL retirement money.
$1,000 on the line right now that you cannot beat us by less than 2 touchdowns.
That's NFL.
That's why it's 15 points.
That's NFL pension money right there, Corey.
That would be a totally dumb bet.
Well, go ahead, Corey.
He says a dumb bet. He says a dumb bet. He says.
Wait a minute, Corey. Are you saying that the Gamecocks will finish within 15 points of Clemson?
I'm saying 15 points right now. $1,000 on the line, on the air.
Is this legal? I don't think this is legal in South Carolina.
We have to disavow. I'm sorry.
I don't even know if this is legal. What we're doing.
We have to disavow this. We have to disavow. We can't allow gambling over the air.
Because Andre Bauer said.
I'm not betting. I don't bet money.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Andre.
I think that goes against Corey's constitution.
Yeah, I don't bet money.
Because Andre Bauer voted against gambling in the state of South Carolina.
Now you have excuses.
I'm not.
Now, Will, I mean, listen, I'm not going to get involved in gambling here. I think it's a horrible, horrible thing. But
but if there was somebody who had a Bovada account in this room among the 3 of us, who do you think it would be?
But I think the game.
Let's be real.
I might think the Gamecocks are going to make it a third quarter into the fourth quarter kind of game.
Then put your money on the line.
I don't have an NFL pension to fall back on.
I love that though, Will. If Clemson and South Carolina and Alabama play, I give you 17 points.
You're going to give Clemson 17 against Alabama, Corey?
If that happens, that game happens, count it down, and we'll say whoever loses wear each other's jersey for a full day.
Oh, I like it. Hey, we got to go. You guys are fantastic. Have a great week. Good luck to you. Talk to you next week. Back in a moment.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It is indeed time for another outstanding edition of SC Wild with DNR's Captain Billy Downer here in studio with us in downtown Columbia. We want to include you with your questions about the great outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing, whatever the case may be. The captain is here. Dial us up, 800-956-7266, or shoot us an email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, or tweet at us on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, and we'll pass along your question to the captain. Good to see you again, sir.
It's good to be here.
Everything
with
good?
My 2 Sprites in hand.
Oh, what's this for now?
On air again. I will admit to now. Yes, we made a
wager
friendly. Well, that would be friendly agreement.
Yes.
Are you handing me this to give to me? Is that what you're doing?
If Clemson beat the spread, that I would give you a drink. Well, they doubled the spread, so I got 2 drinks.
You're giving me 2 drinks.
I got you 2 drinks because they doubled the spread. So hey,
yeah.
Well, listen, never bet against Clemson. Right now, they are red hot, as you know.
Yes.
Boom goes the dynamite. So just be careful.
Didn't say they wouldn't win. I just didn't think they'd make that spread.
Nobody thinks they're going to lose, at least not right now. All right, let's get to the great outdoors here in the Palmetto State. You've got some things you want to talk about, beginning with being seen out there as a hunter and trying to be safe.
Be safe, be seen. That is a new phrase we've got out there, a new campaign we're doing. It's November. It's getting cold. It was warm this week. I know that it was very hot. I was sweating a couple days ago. Couldn't believe it's November, but it's South Carolina. Just wait. Again, tomorrow the weather will be different.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be very cold weather coming in this weekend, which is going to activate the deer. Deer are going to be moving around again. We talk about the rut usually being sometime late October, early November. So the rut's going to be starting here, or it has already started in certain areas. We've seen some activity spike in the number of deer being taken, brought to processors. But to folks going out to deer hunt across the state for sure, one thing that we see a lot is that across the country, mistaken for game is one of the leading causes for hunting accidents. Not that we want to highlight hunting accidents by any means, and not that we want to talk about that hunting's unsafe. That's not the point. That would not be a true statement if you look at the statistics. However, one accident is too many. And we don't want anyone to mistake anyone else for a game animal. And when does this happen? Typically, it happens in low light. So folks go to the deer stands early in the morning when it's dark. They come out in the evening after it gets dark. Again, both times low light. People sometimes look at moving, shadows. They may aim at it. That's a bad decision. Always a bad decision. So one of the things we're encouraging you to do is take a flashlight with you. And so much so that we've started the Be Safe, Be Seen campaign, and we are giving away some stream lights in all of our hunter education classes.
Nice.
Not that everyone will get one, but we'll be giving away some in each class, 1 or 2 in each class. Students that answer a question right, maybe, or do real well in test.
Reward.
Reward, exactly. And it's got a little card on it. Talks about misidentification of game is one of the leading causes of hunting accidents every year. Use this light when you are going to and from your tree stand in the dark, so others will know that you are a hunter.
Can I have that?
Yes, of course you can.
Give it to me
later, not now.
No, I claim it. I claim that.
Patience.
I beat you to it.
You are in the market for hunting.
Sure.
No, I mean, if I don't use it for hunting purposes, I can use it for other things.
So you're not confused
not
as
just
game
for hunting.
Well, again, 2 things. Use a flashlight at night. Some people say, I'm not using a flashlight because then the deer will know I'm coming. That might be true. But it's much better to do that than to be misidentified by someone else that's hunting.
You're giving the deer too much credit there. I see deers all the time who react to headlights on the road and stuff like that.
They do, but you're slipping through the woods with a flashlight. Yes, they tend to know what
keeps them. That's a good question. I mean, especially I come down I-26 at night, especially where 385 and 26 come together. There's a little area there on the side where there always are deer.
Well,
and they can look. And what keeps them from running out onto the interstate? They're
half the time it's going to be sheer luck. They're eating. Now, deer in the headlight. You've heard the deer in the headlight phrase. That's a true statement. Deer in the headlights, they freeze sometimes.
That's described me.
The lights blind them, so their senses tell them to stop. and that can be a bad deal for a car or truck, whatever you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
But, these animals get on the side of the roads, particularly as it gets later in the winter and the cold and freeze and frost begins to kill the natural greens in the woods. We've put out clover on the edge of the highways to keep the ground from washing away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that clover, of course, is another great food source for deer. So
and
it attracts deer
closer
to the side of the highway.
Yeah.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that does happen. But again, using a flashlight so that others know who you are. Don't be afraid to do that. It's a smart idea. Again, also using hunter orange. We talk about hunter orange. Wear hunter orange. It's a color that it fluoresces at night naturally.
Can you get Gamecock fans to do that?
If they want to be safe and be seen,
you can't get.
I think they will.
You can't get Garnet to
show
show up.
We ran an ad. Speaking of that, a few years ago in both the Clemson and Carolina. In the Carolina program, we say it may not be your favorite color,
mm-hmm.
but wear orange when you hunt. We use that kind of as a pun for that. It was a pretty good one.
So the people who wear camouflage, you do not recommend that at least during the day.
What? Okay. Always
through
hunter education, we recommend using some type of hunter orange if you're deer hunting,
right?
Going to and from your stand. And on our WMAs, it's required.
Gotcha.
On public land to identify yourself as a hunter. We don't have a requirement of square inches. Some states have a square inch requirement, but a hat, a vest of hunter orange is always a good idea, even on private land. And here's the thing you'll get: I know who's on my land, and I know who will be and won't be on my land. Well, you may think you do. But people will trespass, or
accidentally get into your land,
or people at night will get lost in travel on your land. They may end up on your fire break off the other property, trying to find their way out, and may end up in your line of sight. So you need to always think that sometimes things can happen like that. That you're not thinking. You may think you know everything, but you don't. People can wander in from other pieces of property.
Have we had a hunting season thus far that has been overrun with accidents, or has it been mild?
No, accidents go up and down each year. It's kind of sometimes they spike. Since the advent of hunter education, accident numbers have gone down historically since, particularly in this state, since we enacted that in the 90s. But that's one of the things that the International Hunter Education Association has really touted over the last 10 years is that hunter education has been a part of preventing hunting accidents. Now, folks going to argue, I don't need to go to class, I know everything. I get that. But there's a lot of folks who don't know anything that may learn something from that class. And if they remember one thing, muzzle control, just that, we could save a lot of people from a lot of trouble.
And muzzle control would be?
Muzzle control is watching the direction of where your gun's pointed.
That was Brian.
Yeah, you keep.
I think he was, reaching down deep for something.
Yes,
yeah.
Motivation.
You keep your end of your barrel pointed in a safe direction. Always keep it away from others. Keep your gun unloaded when you're traveling to and from your stand. Those are safety things that we teach in hunter education. But again,
we asked Steve Tannehill about that. Was it last week? We asked him if he. We were talking about what you were talking about when you're climbing into your deer stand and not carrying the gun on your back. And I think he said, occasionally he has it on his back, but oftentimes he will put it on a lift or something.
We advised him to use the lift because, as you mentioned,
use the haul line.
Because
if you fall, that gun's not going to break your back with it.
It can hurt you
every time.
I'm not sure he paid attention to us because he thinks we're a bunch of ninnies.
Well, that's okay
over here.
If if one person pays attention, we may save one person.
I don't want to be responsible for Steve Tannehill's broken back.
Well, hey,
all right.
Waterfowl hunting coming up next. This is what this time of year folks start getting excited. It's November. We're nearing waterfowl season. Again, we've talked about it a lot. South Carolina has been a wintering ground for lots of waterfowl for many years, plantation days to now. So when we get back from the break, we'll talk about when our season's coming in, when our youth days are, and some of the things, some of our limits that may have changed, and some other information.
Are we going to do some duck calls?
Not today.
He didn't bring his stuff. But can we talk turkey as well?
All the time.
Yeah,
whatever you want.
Thanksgiving's coming up. I deep fried a turkey today.
Wow.
Delicious. We'll talk a little bit about that too.
You cooking, scary.
Well, you are turkey by trade.
Some might think so, but I can cook a good turkey. All right, we'll be right back.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we continue with the captain, Billy Downer, here on Sports Talk. So we close out one season to some degree, shrimping season.
Yes, you had a question. I was just trying. Shrimping season for bait closed yesterday at noon.
You can still go out and cast a net.
You can cast a net, yes.
Yeah.
Except
till when?
You won't get
It's a closed season for shrimping. You can't do any shrimping. I got back to find that in December.
Do you like shrimping when you go shrimping? You enjoy it?
And
it can be a frustrating. It's a frustrating deal, isn't it?
Really get into that, and it's a lot of fun. They go out and sit in the boat and wash the poles and work the poles, and so
it seems like a lot of work.
Shrimp without bait, it's closed December 16th to April 30th. Taking shrimp without bait, that's closed December 16th through April 30th. That's when you can't do that.
That's the casting of the net.
That's just you
so to
can't take shrimp. Period. Yeah, like that.
All right, so we were talking about waterfowl hunting now coming into South Carolina.
Duck season begins Saturday, November the 17th. November the 17th. That's not this weekend, but next weekend. This is the first season, traditionally called the Thanksgiving season. Comes in November 17th and will go out November the 24th. So quick 1 week season there. There'll be a break, and then it'll come back in December 8th and run through January 27th.
Why the short season? Why just a week?
Because we have traditionally the Atlantic Flyway Council, which basically the federal government sets up your season and gives you a number of days. Typically, the max number you get 60 days, and you take those days and you divide them up, and you can't, you could do them all together. We try to split them up. Thanksgiving season has always been traditional, but if you started the week before Thanksgiving, you might not get all your days in. You might run out of days for the end of January, and folks want to be able to hunt the end of January. So it's a little bit of like you got to look at that a little bit, split it. Folks want to hunt Thanksgiving, and they really want to hunt late January, and then there's the theory of two quote unquote opening days. In other words, with the break, birds get a chance to rest, and the season comes back in, so you get that opening day experience where the birds aren't as wary twice. Now sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. With a 1 week break, not necessarily, but it does split the season up. It gives folks what they're traditionally are used to. Families do a lot of hunting together. Go out.
Are we really concerned about the health of the bird?
He's the Department of Natural Resources.
About the tradition.
We're out there blowing them out of the sky.
No, we're not.
And we're worried about whether they are wary or not.
Part of his job is conservation. Corn.
Well, in this case, it's about the experience of the hunt, making sure you have a safe hunt, your times are right, you're giving the birds a rest, those kind of things. So
you do want to also make sure that there are birds left for you. You don't want to completely wipe out the population.
How big is the duck population in our state? I mean, what's the
duck population in our state? First of all, we only have a limited amount of birds that live here. Wood ducks traditionally have always lived in South Carolina. We now have some whistling ducks that live here now that have moved in. Black-belly, fulvous duck, whistling ducks are in our state some. Black-belly a little more. They're doing some studies to kind of see what they're doing, the tree ducks.
What's the best duck to eat?
The best duck to eat is always an argument among folks. Way back when, back in the 20s, they would have told you the canvasback. Canvasback as a meal in New York City way back when was $12, $15 way back when.
So are we kind of a flyover state when it comes to ducks? I mean, they're just flying over, heading somewhere else?
We're still a destination state.
Okay.
As we like to say, we're still a destination state. Again, remember, the coastal rice plantations were a big part of wintering waterfowl habitat. It gave them a lot of food to get their energy to be able to fly back north. So that continues to be pretty popular here. We have our refuge system here. We've got part of the Ace Basin, of course. We've got the Santee National Wildlife Refuge as well as other refuges that do winter waterfowl. And the next show, I'm going to get one of the managers from the refuge system to talk to us on air.
Good.
Just about what they're doing to preserve habitat and kind of interest some folks, probably some information they may have forgotten or didn't know about.
Yeah. Now, remember, there are some limitations and some restrictions.
There are.
On the
so
hunters.
Before we go back to that, the State Youth Day is this weekend.
Okay.
A lot of people forget that, but this Saturday is State Youth Day. The legal species this weekend is ducks, mergansers, and coots. I know you love the coots.
Clemson fans.
Only youth who are 17 years of age or younger may hunt, but they must be accompanied by an adult of at least 21 years of age who is fully licensed. Youth who are 16 and 17 years of age who hunt on this day must possess a migratory bird permit and a valid federal waterfowl stamp. Daily and possession bag limits are the same as indicated for regular seasons. Here's the rules you were talking about. Daily duck limits this year is 6 total for this year, including no more than 4 mallards. 4 mallards, which can include 2 hens. That's the females. 3 wood ducks, 2 redheads, 2 canvasbacks, 2 scaup.
Give me a couple
pintails.
of redheads.
Seriously. 2 pintails, 1 fulvous whistling duck, and 1 black-bellied whistling duck. Again, combination of those up to 6.
You shouldn't have put redheads in there.
Well, redheads, great duck.
I'm sure.
Oh,
I'm sure they are.
The black duck, the mottled duck limit is as follows for this year as it was last year. For areas east and south of Interstate 95, 1 black or 1 mottled duck in the total bag. For areas west and north of Interstate 95, 2 black ducks or 1 black duck and 1 mottled duck in the total bag.
That tells me that the population is more plentiful east of the highway.
That means there are more likely chances for mottled ducks and black ducks to be in the same waterfowl areas.
Now you're mentioning
mottled ducks are not seen generally west of 95. They're usually seen east. They're a coastal bird.
Got it.
So trying to make sure folks, to protect the mottled duck population, don't shoot 2 of those 1 and 1.
You're mentioning an area that was heavy hit by flooding.
Yes.
Does that affect the ducks going back into that area in some form or fashion?
What it will do is if there were dikes that were blown out and a lot of fresh water gets into some of these salt marshes, that can destroy some of the vegetation that grows in a saline environment. Widgeon grass, things like that, which can mess up wintering waterfowl habitat, the food for them. So that is a concern. Fortunately, we did a lot of work from the last couple of years of flooding on RWMAs. I don't know of any major dike blowouts that occurred this time around. We were pretty fortunate, I think. So our WMAs are in pretty good shape. Again, waterfowl management areas, we have Category 1 and Category 2. Category 1 is the kind you have to put in for every year. It's a draw system. You get drawn to go. Real nice hunts. Anybody needs to put in for these. It's $20 a year to put in. You generally are drawn every 3rd to 4th year. So you'll have $60 invested before you get drawn, usually, because it's very competitive. But you get to go on a really quality hunt. You go out of state, you're going to pay $200 plus to go on a hunt like this. So it's a pretty good deal in this state to have, and a great opportunity that our folks put a lot of heart and soul into to get these areas ready for wintering waterfowl to have good seasons here.
All right. So our final minutes with you tonight. What should people remember as they go out on these?
Remember this: if you're going waterfowl hunting, make sure you have your state hunting license, your migratory bird permit, which is free, not to be confused with your migratory waterfowl permit, the old duck stamp. That's $5.50 for the state. Your federal duck stamp, which is $25, post office or online. It is now online. You can get your stamp online, and then you have to wait. You'll get the stamp within 45 days, and you can take your proof of purchase with you until you get the stamp. Once you get the stamp, you need to sign your federal stamp and put it on your license. That's really the only stamp today that you put on your license anymore is your federal duck stamp. But if you buy it online or an e-stamp, you will get it. It may be listed even when you buy it from a vendor. It'll be listed on your license. You will receive the physical stamp in 45 days. Until then, you may hunt without the stamp as long as you have proof of purchase.
All right.
Once you get the stamp, you sign it as you always have, and you stick it on your license. So
other things to remember?
Other than that, when you're out there waterfowl hunting, make sure you know who's around you, know the distance your shot will travel.
No toxic shells.
Non-toxic shot. Shot will travel up to 200 yards. So be careful. Be set up away from others so that you don't scatter shot on them.
No sky busting.
No sky busting. And we're going to review all that next show.
Okay.
As well.
Sky busting.
Biggest thing.
Is that where you just shoot up?
That's where people shoot too high. They just shoot at ducks to shoot at them, and it makes ducks fly even higher. Keeps everybody around from being able to enjoy the hunt.
They can't fly that high, can they?
They can fly pretty high.
All right, so I get the flashlight.
The last note for today, remember, be safe, be seen. Use a flashlight and wear hunter orange when walking to and from your deer stand in low light. Have a safe week.
You too, sir. Good luck to your Bulldogs, your Citadel Bulldogs. I hope they're working on their rifling. They should be very good in rifling and shooting. If not, we're in a lot of trouble.
Pleasant evening, sir.
You too. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. Good evening.